Welcome to Growth Engines Demystified. I'm your host, Jason Katz, founder of GMA. This podcast breaks down the real strategies behind thriving businesses. From successful business owners, operators, and experts, Travis Rea, VP of Sales and Marketing at Brava, didn't just market a breakthrough cooking technology. He helped build it. In this episode, Travis shares how Brava is transforming kitchens everywhere, even for blind and low vision users, while crafting a career that perfectly blends his skills and passions. We also explore its acquisition by Middleby, one of the largest cooking companies in the world. Right here on Growth Engines Demystified. Let's dive in. Hello, Travis. Good to see you again.
How's it
Been a
going,
while.
Jason? Good to see you too.
It was amazing to see you at CES recently. We met a few years ago and talked about technology, marketing, Metallica, and being a dad. I had to stay in touch with you. And so many things happened to you since, Travis. There's a lot that people, entrepreneurs, and marketers could learn from. So I'm really excited.
Awesome. Excited to be here. Yeah, I've learned a lot along the way.
Terrific. How did you start off as a chef and then end up being a marketer?
I've been into cooking since I was a kid. The first thing I cooked was eggs, and it fascinated me because you could literally see the transformation happening in the pan. I was hooked. All my friends watching MTV. I was watching Julia Child, Jacques Pepin, and great chefs of the world on PBS before the Food Network came out. I did an internship in high school. Most people worked with judges, attorneys, surgeons, and other high profile careers. I went to work in Brennan's Kitchen in Houston. Very quickly, I was like, this is no good. These guys work way too hard, too long. They don't make enough money. But there was something I still loved about it. I did another high school job that summer cooking in a fine dining Italian restaurant. I came to the same conclusion.
You fell in love. You always keep it interesting, Travis.
I was in love, but not with the restaurant industry. So I went into college. I studied marketing in my senior year. I had this moment of clarity at a restaurant. I had this loin of lamb from New Zealand and it blew my mind. And I went, oh no, I've been doing this all wrong. I'm about to go into PR and marketing for all the wrong reasons. I'm just doing this for the money. And what I really love is this. It's a hard life, but I have to go for it. And so instead of grad school, I moved to San Francisco to go to California Culinary Academy. I did my internship in fine dining at a restaurant, Gary Danko. They were early innovators in the pick your own tasting menu. I ended up working there for 4 years. They taught me more than I could ever imagine, a foundation for my career. I was worried I would end up married to a restaurant. I wanted to be married, have kids, have a life. I was in a moment of crisis. I was about to go into a different chef's job. I went to Williams Sonoma corporate. I was right around the corner from Gary Danko. My best friend's daughter that worked at Williams Sonoma got me an interview with a cookbooks buyer. He said, I think your skills are better suited for this food development department that had just started. And that's what I joined. I ended up running that team a year later. I stayed with Williams Sonoma for 8 years, launched over 800 new exclusive food products. I got to work with a lot of really high profile chefs from Tom Colicchio to Thomas Keller, Zach Palacio. We did all of the development and we're the launch partner for all the Bouchon baking mixes from Thomas Keller. Those were some of the career highlights I had at Williams Sonoma.
Amazing. Was Tom Colicchio doing Top Chef at that point?
Absolutely. Doing Top Chef. And we were working with him. Do you remember his restaurant called Witchcraft?
Yes.
We did some of the spreads when they wanted to launch those into retail. Getting to work with those guys was incredible. I got to sit in the upstairs of the French Laundry and have a tasting of 20 different sauces
Whoa.
with Chef Keller. It was always like, pinch me, man. This is insane. We became friends and it was a great partnership. I was working for Williams Sonoma, but I was also working for them to deliver these products. They had the highest standards. Then I worked for a company called Revolution Foods in Oakland. They were serving healthy meals to underprivileged kids K to 12 on the federal free lunch program. I worked on designing meals for them. There were a lot of nutritional regulations that I had a problem with because they weren't actually making healthy food. And Revolution Foods had to work under those regulations to get reimbursed. I didn't really love that.
You're talking about partnerships at Williams Sonoma and Revolution Food. You got to find the win-wins to make it work. There's an art to partnership management. You were doing sophisticated partnership work in the chef world.
Yeah, it set me up for a lot. And I went to Nature Box based in Silicon Valley. They were the Netflix of snacks. I was developing new custom snack foods, but I wasn't truly satisfied because I'm not really a snacker. It wasn't fulfilling me. I heard from a former colleague who was test kitchen director at Williams Sonoma. This company called Brava had been recruiting her, but she wasn't ready to leave Williams Sonoma. She was like, I think you should talk to them. And I said, cool. What do they do? She said, it's this magic box that cooks with light and can sear steak in 7 minutes. And I was like, no, not possible. I was like, this is going to be some Silicon Valley snake oil. But I was wise enough to check it out. She connected me with John Pleasance, the CEO. We had a great initial conversation, and he invited me to the house where they were working out of. They didn't have an office at the time. It was guys with stand-up desks in East Bay. They were building the prototype in the garage with welding masks and fire. I was like, what in the world are these guys doing? I interviewed in a bedroom. It was very strange, but they cooked for me. I really felt like I was in the show Silicon Valley. And I'll tell you what, that steak came out perfect. It blew my mind.
I'm hungry. Yeah.
I connected the dots really quickly. This thing is so capable and it's going to be able to do so many things. I wanted to join the team right away. This was a team of PhDs in math, software engineers, electrical engineers, mechanical engineers, and physicists. People that were way smarter than I am. And I wanted to be surrounded by brilliant people. And it was funny too, because they were always surprised at what we would do on the culinary team. And they're like, you guys are geniuses. The early days in Brava. They're some of the best times in my career. My first week was the first week we had an office in Redwood City. And my second week was when we did a demo that landed us millions in VC funding. I did not realize what was on the line during that demo. I only had a week to prepare. Once we got funded, our job really was completely uncharted. How do you cook with light? We should take a step back and tell everybody what Brava is. Brava is the world's first smart countertop oven that cooks with infrared light. Most regular ovens, both countertop and built-in, either use gas or coils to heat up. They're slow to heat and slow to cool, but really good at holding a radiant temperature inside the oven chamber. Brava does things differently because it uses lamps originally designed for the solar industry to phase silicon wafers onto solar panels. They go from ambient to full power in less than a second. They shut off just as quickly. At full power, they're over 4,000 degrees at the core of the bulb. But the tricky thing is we're not cooking with radiant heat, like in a regular oven. It's a direct energy transfer where the lamp will shine directly onto the food, and V-shaped reflectors help arc the light. There's 3 lamps on top and 3 on the bottom. We call each lamp a zone. Lamps give us searing power you could never get in a regular oven. You could eventually get the browning from the Maillard reaction, but by the time you generate that in a regular oven on a steak, the thing's going to be a hockey puck. Those lamps give us 3 independent cooking zones within the same chamber. You can cook up to 3 different ingredients on the same tray. I eat a whole meal, like chicken, potatoes, and Brussels sprouts. It will cook each independently in each of those zones and have everything done at the same time. It's about 2 to 4 times faster than a regular oven. The cooking technology is so fast. It's like magnifying sunlight by 80 times. In the same way you light a leaf on fire. It's really hot right under that light, but to the sides of it, it's not hot at all.
Who decides to change the way cooking happens using light to cook food, 3 different chambers, and for it to be faster? What was that spark of creativity or inspiration that
It
the
was
founder had?
from our 2 co-founders, Dan and Thomas, friends in high school. Dan is a software entrepreneur. He founded a gaming company called Playdom that sold to Disney. On a Thanksgiving evening, Dan's mother was frustrated having to go back and forth to the oven. She told Dan, hey, you're a pretty smart guy. You've founded and sold companies. I would like you to build a cooking robot that knows when everything's done and can shut off automatically. So he went to lunch with Thomas, who is a hardware entrepreneur before Brava. Thomas has a number of patents credited to his name. He was one of the heads at August Locks, one of the first smart lock companies. He was actually working on a little side project, tinkering with lamps for vaporizers. They had lunch, and Dan mentioned the idea of the oven. Thomas said, "I'm working on this light technology." Dan's, "Do you think you could make it bigger?" Thomas said, "Maybe." They ended up retrofitting a toaster oven with one of these lamps, and they cooked a steak very quickly. They knew they were onto something, and that's really where the idea came from. When I joined, I was number 20.
Very interesting for a few reasons. One, inspiration was mom. Sounds like a really good son, committed to helping mom solve the challenge. So kudos. Two, hardware and software coming together. Now it's pervasive. Even kids in high school learning how they work together. But at the time when you were in the Silicon Valley skit, this was not common.
They had a very rudimentary website. When I was checking them out, they said this is like an IoT product. I had to Google IoT. I started thinking, why would anyone need an oven that's connected to the internet? That made no sense to me.
You're a skeptical guy, but you're also a tech entrepreneur.
I'm
You're
a
trying
skeptical
to
guy
connect
because
to
I'm
the
a
real world.
former chef and I was not a gadget guy. I didn't tinker in my career with sous vide or any of those other technologies. Give me a pan, a knife, some fire, and I'll figure it out. That's how chefs think. You give us the materials and we figure out how to work with it. That attitude turned out to be quite helpful in developing Brava. We were a critical part of helping design the product when I started. They were still building it, optimizing it, and doing a lot of testing early on. We didn't know if the internal surface should be stainless steel or black. They have different thermal properties. We were doing a lot of R&D testing on that. Which does it bake better with? Turned out the black interior baked better. But we ended up going with stainless because it reflects light better, cooks a little bit faster. And what Brava does best is cooks meat and vegetables very quickly. Getting dinner on the table with the press of a button in 15 minutes or less. So that's what we decided to really lean in and focus on, the searing and cooking protein and vegetables. To be able to load a tray with the three different ingredients or whatever you wanted to cook, search on the touchscreen for the recipe, and then load the tray and press a button. It is actually that simple. That first year and a half, we were trying to figure out how to cook with the light. There were no reference materials, no scientific papers on how to cook with infrared light. We were figuring this out through trial and error. I think about the grocery bills. We went through so many beef tenderloins and things just trying to figure it out. But we
Poor
did.
thing, you had to eat a lot of steak back in the day. I really feel bad for you,
I was
Travis.
so sick of eating steak at one point. It eventually became clear why the thing was connected to the internet for me because these guys were so smart. I couldn't understand the vision at first, but what they really wanted was to have an app with all of these automated recipes on it. And that's why it had to connect to the internet to have the app work with the Brava, to be able to update constantly. And I started thinking of it like a Tesla. Brava push updates every Tuesday. We push new recipes to it. We've done that since 2018. And we do software updates about once a month. When Brava launched back in the fall of 2018, we launched with about 100 recipe programs on it. Today we have 8,500.
Can you talk a little bit about Bravascript? The lights need to hit the different parts of the tray in different ways in order for this to work, and all the testing. This doesn't happen by itself. This really blew me away. The first time we spoke, you told me you created a coding language for this. I said, "Is this guy for real? He's a chef. He's a marketer. He does coding language." I'm like, "This guy isn't real. Maybe you can tell folks about Bravascript and writing requirements for the
It was
engineering."
it was my first week when we were getting ready to program that demo for VC funding. They got me behind a computer and they were like, "Okay, we're going to show you how you guys are going to program it." And I said, "What do you mean?" They're like, "Yeah, you're going to code it." And I said, "Wait, I don't code." I did one computer science class in college and was like, "Never again. It's not my." And I thought, man, I have made a terrible mistake. They hired the wrong guy. They didn't tell me I had to have any computer coding experience. This is going to be a total disaster. But they said, no, just bear with us. We'll work with you guys on it. We had to develop it. The Brava right behind me, it has a metal door. That's unique for an oven because every other oven on planet Earth has a glass door, so you can see inside. Brava has a camera, so we didn't need to. The reason for the metal door was because early on, the first version of Bravascript was chefs telling each lamp how many 100ths of a second to fire for how long, and then running loops of those programs. And so inside the oven chamber was like strobe lights. And there's no way you could have a glass door on that kind of strobe light thing, or it would cause major problems. We ran into a huge problem 6 months in when we found out the inrush of electricity differs across the country. When we're telling people we have an automated recipe program that's going to cook something perfectly, you can't have power variations. The teams had to rethink. They ended up writing a software program that corrects and equalizes the inrush. That fundamentally changed the way lamps operated. Instead of a flicker, they went more to a traditional lamp on a dimmer switch. The lamps turn on and off very quickly instead of flickering like a strobe light. That was a big change that delayed us 6 months. It was around that time when we started rethinking how Bravascript was going to work and gave us the opportunity to sit down with the software team and really work together on a coding language. They said, "What do you want?" I was like, I don't know. You tell me. You guys are software engineers. I don't know what to tell you." I was like, the main thing I can tell you is I want commands in culinary terms, like sear, bake, do it for this amount of. I wanted it to be as simple as humanly possible. Bravascript was a series of 6 numbers. Each number corresponded to a lamp, and we would write the power level and duration that lamp should be on. Then we would create and run loops. To sear something, for example, you would say turn lamp 2 on at full power for 2 minutes. And that would bring the surface temperature of the steak up to where it started to brown. Before it burned, we would change the lamp and hit it from a different direction. When we sear from the top and then move to the bottom, the thermal conductivity is still going through the top of the steak, even though we're now hitting it from the bottom. It doesn't just stop right away like it would in a pan because it's pumping massive amounts of energy in there. Brava goes from ambient to full power in less than a second. At full power, it's energy equivalents of a 900-degree wood-fired pizza oven instantly. But it's not getting that hot inside. When Brava shuts off, it's 150 degrees. Whereas a regular oven at 350 to 450, and Brava cools off quickly. When a regular oven, you can't leave things in there. With Brava, the first thing when we do when it shuts off is we turn on a fan to evacuate the chamber of heat. So you don't have to get things out of Brava right away. They can stay in there. You don't have to be in a rush to get things out because they're not going to overcook. That was pretty unique as well. Like I said, Bravascript was this partnership between the software and culinary team saying, we want it to be as simple as possible.
You guys found your flow, you found your rhythm of working together.
Mm, it was a constant back and forth. They would bring us the new software and we would test it out and say, we don't like this, or this is what we do. And we started to learn how to ask her things from a software team. What I found out pretty quickly was if it's possible with software, typically the answer is yes. We had to be able to articulate what we were looking for. We were programming recipes on Brava using a computer, like typing in code in the very beginning. When Brava launched in 2018, we went to CES in January of 2019. At the time, we had 100 recipe programs on Brava. It only had 4 manual modes. It could toast, reheat, bake, sear. A lot of the other manual modes, like air fry, dehydrate, slow cook, rice cook, custom cook, came later. They didn't come until 2020, which was cool because that's what I meant like a Tesla. We update the software because we could get better at programming it and learning how to emulate other cooking modes. We were able to add those later on. So imagine being an early Brava customer. If you bought it in 2019 and you come down to your kitchen in 2020 and it says, I now have an air fryer function, dehydrator too. We added 6 cooking modes post launch to just keep making it better and better. People loved that. They were blown away.
Fascinating. You and the team went through a lot to turn the product into what it is today. As you were figuring these out, early adopters were experiencing a ton of benefit. Why were there early adopters? How did you take all of this mad science and culinary science in the Brava garage and headquarters and tell that story to the world and get people to take a leap and cook with lights?
Massive PR and marketing. I was hired at Bravo to run and build the culinary team. At one point, we had 9 full-time chefs on staff designing recipes. But I was always involved in all marketing meetings because they're so closely tied to the food. I had to be able to tell them what the thing can do so they could market it. We had VC funding and we spent a lot of money early on public relations, media events in New York and Los Angeles. We launched in November of 18, but in July we had big pre-launch media and press events. We had great PR representation. So we were getting a lot of articles. And Facebook marketing was massive for us.
You're not talking about PR and marketing like a chef anymore. You're starting to talk about it like a marketer.
Well, it's what I studied in college. There was no social media back then, so I certainly was learning a lot on the job at Williams Sonoma. I was always a product developer, working with the guys that sell the product to help inform them of what it is, what the benefits are. We had to think about that from a design perspective at Williams Sonoma early on. What do we want to highlight here? What do we want this thing to be able to do? What ingredients do we want to be able to call out on the label that are special and unique? And there was storytelling involved. That's what marketing is, storytelling. That's what I meant when I connected the dots early on at Brava. The storytelling dots from Williams Sonoma, that there's something big here. The intention was to use the glass tray because it allowed the light to shine through the bottom. Turned out we were having tough time searing steaks on that glass, getting a nice sear on the bottom side. So I asked the hardware engineers, can you guys give me a metal tray? They somehow took a metal sheet pan and retrofitted it to slide into the rails of Brava. And when we cooked the steak on that the first time, we went, oh, yes. That was the first time I went, wait, we can do other things in here too. It was Williams Sonoma in my head. We can do other accessories here too. We can create a whole bakeware line. We can get a Dutch oven into this thing. And so that's where the accessories business started, expanding what Brava's capabilities were. We wanted to show the most capable cooking device on the planet. You still need a regular oven to cook a Thanksgiving turkey because it was a little too small to do that. But it can do everything else, literally every single thing else. It replaces a toaster, a microwave, air fryer, slow cooker, and all these other things. I have mine positioned right next to my range. I think of Brava like an automated sous chef that will do a task perfectly every single time without me having to worry about it while I work on other stuff. Because I got 4 young kids at home. We don't do the 3 ingredient at the same time meals in Brava, but we use it to reheat all the time. We'll use it for roasted broccoli, cooking rice. It gives you peace of mind where I'm not having to fiddle with it. I tell people Brava does a great job searing steaks, but as a former chef, I love doing that on the stovetop. I like butter basting steaks. It's just fun for me. Most people get anxiety about it. My wife's happy to cook them and I'm happy to eat them from Brava. Same with eggs. Brava can fry eggs, poach eggs, but I love cooking eggs. So my wife uses it for eggs. I tend to go old school for those.
All right. That sounds good. You're still doing the things that you enjoy. You were starting to riff on Facebook ads. I was fishing for your transition from food science, food product development into marketing. So
Gotcha.
when did that transition happen relative to when you were doing all those marketing activities you were talking about?
That was in February of 21. In March of 2020, the world flipped upside down with COVID. And we're based in California, so we had the most stringent work from home policies in the country. We immediately had to pivot. We were going to the office every day. I was going to Silicon Valley every single day, and immediately we were working from home. We no longer had a test kitchen because that was at the office. The culinary team had to figure out how to develop new recipes. We were very fortunate because we had just launched a feature called Custom Cook that allows you to program any of Brava's manual modes and combine with Brava's fully automated recipe program. The ability to create your own recipe programs on Brava.
Letting the customer access Bravascript a little bit.
They were hidden from Bravascript. This was a long, many phases project, but the initial part was one example. We do a great job with frozen pizza. I like mine to be dark on the bottom. I want it super crispy. But if I set the Brava default for my preference, that people will call and tell me it's burnt. When Custom Cook came out, I added a 90-second sear all zones bottom step to frozen pizza program to brown the bottom after it was finished cooking. So now when I make a frozen pizza, I go to my Custom Cook library, hit my frozen pizza, and it does it my way every single time. The tinkery chef Brava users that wanted to get under the hood really latched on to one of our oldest and dearest customers, Elliot, figured out how to cook ghee in Bravo with the press of a button. He put a couple of pounds of butter into our 1 pound loaf pan. It started to boil and turned off so the solids settled and poured out the clarified butter, and boom, you've got ghee. He uploaded that. People started downloading it all the time. It was so popular, we ended up turning that into a Brava recipe program. Then we started encouraging people to develop a program that people love. We'll launch it as a Brava recipe. Elliot then went on to develop a bunch of programs that I was unwilling to do, like cooking a steak from frozen. Because as a chef, I don't believe in it. I can't wrap my head around that. But I said, you've got your custom cook profile if you want to do it and you can launch it. And so he did, and those programs became very popular. Some people really loved having the convenience of being able to pull out a steak from the freezer, pop it on the tray, push a button, and have it come out medium rare a few minutes later. It's
Wow.
pretty. This is the cool thing about Bravo is there's a community aspect to it.
Sounds like a great compromise. You found the common ground.
That's one of the coolest things about Bravo relative to other appliances is because it connects to the internet. We have a direct relationship with customers. We're a D2C company. We have emails. We created a Facebook group. There's two Facebook pages, the Brava Home Facebook brand page. There's also the Brava Home community where our users share photos, tips, and tricks. We, the chefs, were very active in that community, talking to our customers all the time. We would tell them, if you got a recipe idea we don't have, send it to us and we'll develop it for you. I have 30 of our customers programmed into my cell phone that I was talking to on a regular basis. That was really starting to happen when COVID hit because we had to pivot using that custom cook program instead of Bravascript. It made it much easier and faster for us. We started just doing all the development from home. We also got into launching instructional videos. We had a studio kitchen at the office. We had done a bunch of video work. You know, I had to get used to being on camera. Prior to Brava, I had no real camera media training or anything. And our creative director got me up to speed very quickly. So you'll see on our app and our YouTube channel, there's a bunch of videos I'm in and some of the other
Oh,
chefs are
wow.
explaining what the product is. But when COVID hit, the chef team moved into developing recipes from home, creating instructional videos and launching those on our YouTube and Instagrams library. That was going on for almost a year when our marketing director left in February of 20, our president and CEO called me up and said, I want you to take over the growth marketing role. He knew I was interested in doing other things, learn other skills, not being stuck within culinary forever, even though it's what I love. 2 weeks later, we went out of stock.
Oh boy.
We went out of stock because of the Taiwan chip supply shortage because of COVID. Not good. My first big action in that role was to shut off all marketing. Turned off Facebook, TV, advertising. We just had to sit and wait. We were taking pre-orders. We spent time rebuilding our website. Everything for Bravo was up and to the right going into COVID. It was not bad for us that first year. People's cooking a lot from home. Our sales up all the way until we ran out of stock. When we came back, we had lost a lot of the marketing momentum we had. The other thing that happened in April of 21, Facebook changed from a 30-day to 7-day attribution. So we lost a huge marketing signal there too. That messed a lot of D2C companies up because we weren't able to target as well when we came back to advertising on Facebook. Plus, we had to issue a price increase.
Especially when you're a high priced product.
Yeah,
Like
that was
when you're a high priced product, you can get a pretty good return on investment even when you spend a lot of money. But if you're not feeding enough signal data to help the ad platforms,
right.
it becomes really hard. So the 30-day to 7-day, even though it's geeky marketing speak, It's an even bigger impact for high priced products. So,
Oh,
yeah,
it was tough.
I
And
get
now
it.
Brava is a high price product, highest price in the category. One of our customers said, you Brava marketers have one of the hardest jobs ever because you are the highest priced product. You're actually a new category, but you look like a category that's out there, like other countertop ovens that are relatively inexpensive because they all
Wow.
use that old technology.
Can you tell us the big wins from when you were doing some of the Facebook and TV advertising? What was the breakthrough?
One of the biggest wins was early on, the biggest media appearance on Good Morning America.
Oh, nice.
Um, that was huge. They weren't charging an arm and a leg now. You're going to pay about $500,000. Getting some of that media exposure early on, we quickly grew our audience on Instagram to almost 60,000 followers. Getting some really good YouTube reviews and other articles. We won an award at CES in 2019. We won a bunch of awards in 2023 when I met you at CES. Popular Mechanics Gadget Award when we launched the Brava Glass, our first big product update.
That's great. Getting in early. It sounds like influencers. When marketing tactics are early on and there's still experimentation, you can still get a good price. You have to choose the right thing and it's risky, but you can do really well. You are also talking about tremendous engagement from customers who would spend all that time trying to create new recipes, 20 people texting you, the product developer and the product manager. So clearly the customers really liked the product and you had really good PR, marketing, awareness plays. It was all coming together. And the Middleby, a company, a legend in the cooking space with Viking ovens and another 120 brands,
Mhm.
they how did they hear about Brava and how did the next chapter of this Brava story come together?
Middleby is a very large company, own over 100 brands. Main business is Middleby commercial food service, own Blodgett ovens, Turbo Chef, which is the what Starbucks uses to reheat the croissants and things like that, and other industrial products like that. We turned out to be part of Middleby Residential, the luxury suite of brands, which you mentioned includes Viking, it includes La Cornue, Evo Grills, Lynx Grills, Kamado Joe, a number of other really well-known brands in the residential sector. We were their first acquisition of a true D2C brand. They were very interested in our camera and light technology because those were the two unique things at the time inside of ovens. I remember them coming to meet with us. They were very engineering minded and asked a lot of great questions. They ended up purchasing Brava in November of 2019, adding us to Middleby Residential 3 months before COVID hit. So there was a lot of craziness during that first year of COVID. I took over the growth marketing function. Um,
That's pretty interesting that
yeah.
Middleby had the insight picking up Bravo. It was not easy to get cameras and lights and cooking and this all to come together. Someone in Middleby, corporate development, kept up to date on emerging technology in the space and found Brava.
Mhm.
I don't know the terms of the deal. Seems they make a smart move to get innovative cooking technology back in 2019.
And I think they were always looking to expand their brand portfolios in additive ways and add new technologies to give them a competitive advantage. We had something the world hadn't seen before. Innovation in kitchens, particularly in residential, has not changed that much since the microwave. Sous vide technology was developed in the 70s in Europe, and it came on to the scene in the United States restaurants in the 1990s, and it's still a little bit popular today. Those two were the real cooking advancements until we came along. We were able to do things that seemed impossible. They sounded totally crazy. Once we cooked for them and they saw that it actually did what we said it could do, they were impressed and very excited to start. The negotiations happened relatively quickly.
I'm not surprised. Once the cooking engineering reminds me, I'd imagine there was a lot of mutual excitement in the room.
Oh, for sure. They were the first true appliance guys we ever met. We did not have career appliance engineers at Brava. We were software and mechanical engineers that had worked on different products, but nobody had worked on an oven before.
Post Middleby acquisition, post pandemic, figuring out how to do marketing without classic D2C marketing plan. And if there are 120 brands,
20 of them are residential.
20.
So it's a relatively smaller group.
So 20 residential brands, 120 total brands. And then this accessibility finding.
Yeah, older adults were some of the earliest adopters, which surprised me. There was a couple married for 50 years. The wife did all of the cooking and she had a stroke. Husband had no idea how to cook. Their kids got them a Brava. Husband's able to make dinner now. Super cool. It's helping people in ways we didn't expect. And that was the first one. We also had a call with one of our longtime customers who worked in blind and vision services. He and one of his colleagues is fully blind. He was like, this automated cooking thing might be able to help. Seemed like a big stretch to us. But in 2022, we started seeing orders come from a place called Proven Behavior Solutions. As a D2C company, it was very strange to us to see repeat orders going to a business. So I got on the phone. We were like, what are you guys doing with these? And it turned out they were one of the 6 assistive technology providers in the state of Massachusetts. Their client base are young adults with autism trying to live independently. They were looking for the June oven because it had automated cooking programs and ingredient recognition, a similar product with old cooking technology. But Weber bought June oven and then it folded in 2022. You can no longer buy them. Somebody at the May Institute told them about Brava, and that's when they started purchasing them. When they told us what was going on, I said to Rachel, their head of occupational therapy, I need to send you one because you're never going to be able to explain it until you cook with it at home. She cooked with it at home for 2 weeks and called us back and was like, this thing is incredible. We dug in with her and said, what do you like about it? The safety features built into Brava from the very beginning. It stays cool to the touch on the exterior, which no other countertop oven does. You can burn yourself on any toaster oven. You don't have to get things out of it very quickly. They didn't have to go cook over open flame. It has automatic shut off. A lot of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities have trouble remembering to turn off the stove. Peace of mind and oversight. With the camera inside, caregivers of adult children with disabilities or aging parents trying to live independently can be signed into the Brava app. Even if you don't have the Brava, you get notified anytime the oven turns on. See the camera view of what's in the oven and shut it off remotely if they had to. We really dug in with them. We trained their whole team. Since that time, we placed Brava with over 150 people that were living with autism in just the Boston area alone. I had no idea what that was before, but that introduced us to assistive technology.
All of these requirements for Brava Smart Cooking were almost perfectly aligned with those who could really benefit. This is a coincidence, or maybe not. What were you thinking at that point?
It's a great question. I was always super stoked about the mission of Brava, which was to help people cook at home. I think that's my calling. I'll always be excited about that. But when we found out we were helping people that couldn't cook at home and live independently, there's levels that mission was hitting on a totally different level and very rewarding to help people that can't cook. Seemed like a mission we should be on because they've been left behind, particularly in the kitchen. There's a lot of assistive technology out there, screen readers for people that are blind or have low vision, mobility related for people in wheelchairs and other things like that. But there's not a lot in the cooking space. We were one of the first. I saw not only a mission, but a huge market opportunity to serve people that didn't have another option. A lot of people, when they first hear about Brava's price, they balk and go, you guys have $1,000 toaster oven? And we're like, you're not understanding what it is. But when we started going to assistive technology conferences, they didn't balk at the price at all because some of those technologies are very expensive. They were like, oh, this isn't that bad. And I was like, whoa, this is the first time we've heard that. And so we decided to lean into it. We went to the ATIA conference, our first true assistive technology conference about a year ago. Radically wonderful feedback from attendees. The funniest story was these guys from the San Francisco Lighthouse for the Blind and Visually Impaired came over to check it out. They said the touchscreen not usable for people with low vision. We were smart enough to go with software, we can figure this out. So we said, great, tell us more. We ended up having beers with them, became friends, and then ended up partnering with them over the last year to help us with the design and integration of screen readers for our mobile app. We've spent the last year rebuilding the entire back end of Brava because previously you could search for recipes on the app, send them from the app to the Brava device, but you would still have to enter some parameters like protein thickness or protein doneness on Brava's touchscreen. And blind individuals couldn't do that. We said if we rebuild the back end so they could fully control the oven from the mobile app, then we can integrate screen readers. We partnered with SF Lighthouse on the screen reader integrations. This is available to every Brava owner. It's not a special thing that you have to pay extra for today. It was an update that happened overnight. And that integrated screen readers, if you're on iOS, the screen reader is called VoiceOver. If you're on Android, it's called TalkBack. They're able to open the app, and if you search Brava accessibility on Google, you can see a video of one of the guys from the lighthouse who is blind making a grilled cheese. The screen reads the instructions, tells him where to place
Wow.
things on the tray. Then all they have to do is load that tray and push the physical button.
Wow. That is fantastic. It's wild because usually when you say rebuilding a back end, heads are rolling in corporate or you're taking the entire R&D budget. It's not the flashy new feature. It's hard to get those in. It speaks a lot to the Brava and the Middleby leadership that you guys are willing to do this. It sounds like there's a big commercial opportunity giving willingness to pay in the assistive community, but
Mhm.
it's a very hard decision, I'd imagine.
It took some time for us to be able to really explain and make our business case. But once we had some workable demos on the mobile app and they could see what we were doing and actually experience it, they were all in because nobody else is doing this. We went to CSUN, the biggest blind low vision conference in the country. When we went last year, we didn't have any of this ready. We were just trying to find partners and thought leaders to help us in the design. We'll be there again next month. And now it's live. So we're excited to go back and show this to everybody there. That's pretty cool.
Congratulations. Amazing to be at this point where you can now go all in and really make things happen.
Yeah, and
Um,
we're working on a built-in that should be coming out in Q2 or Q3 of this year.
wow.
That'll be co-branded with Viking, built into the wall. A lot of fun things on the horizon.
Co-branded into Viking, voice activated cooking with the lights and camera. Middleby wants to be at the forefront of cooking. Now I can also see how this investment was going to help Brava a lot, but they're thinking about the return much more broadly beyond Brava as well. It's a huge value. You and the Brava team have such unique experience in the cooking world, right? There are not a lot of people, if any, that know how to do this. How are you perceived inside of Middleby? Are you visionaries? Are you resources? Are you weirdos? What are you in this organization of food superpowers?
Obviously, our sales pale in comparison to a bigger brand like Viking right now, but what they did with us was really cool. They knew we were the most advanced in terms of software development within the Middleby residential suite of brands. They had ideas of how to bring Viking into the next level of automated cooking. They hadn't done anything like that before. So we've been working with Viking for the past 2+ years to help them with their new line, which is called Reveal, spelled RVL. You can check it out on the Viking website. That was Viking's first foray into digital touch screens and automated recipe programs. And so I've
Wow.
worked with the Middleby and Viking team of chefs over the past year and a half, building out Viking's digital recipe library. And we ended up using some recipes from Brava. We used some from Viking. We used some of the other Middleby residential brands. We're trying to streamline recipe development across a lot of those brands and see if we can make it faster, better, and more efficient. We are also working with some other Middleby brands, potentially to bring our wireless temp sensor technology to them, because we launched that in 2023. Last but not least, the lamp technology. We know this lamp technology doesn't have to only live in Brava. It can live in other form factors. We're exploring that even with some of the Middleby commercial brands to see if there's a good fit because it's so unique in terms of its instant full power. No, nothing else has that.
Wow. It sounds like you and the team are never going to be bored. You guys are in high demand, going to be very busy for a long time through such a dynamic journey. It's a lot for a person to go through so much change. Human beings, we don't like change. It's not easy. You've recreated yourself many times through all these different chapters. How do you just keep rolling with all these crazy changes?
It's a good question. I've been in my third startup job. Brava truly was a startup when I began there. You have to roll with those punches and adapt quickly because you're doing something relatively new. The same thing was true at NatureBox. Nobody was trying to send snacks through the mail at the time. You have to be nimble and learn from your customers. That was the other thing that the restaurant industry gave me that I never would have gotten anywhere else, a sense of service. And that's why I have these 30 plus people in my cell phone, was because the my goal was to never say no to them. The answer in a restaurant is yes.
Yes, chef.
Always. Yes, chef. You figure out how to get it done. I've
Oh,
always brought that restaurant mentality of service and helping people to my career. And it takes some fortitude to go through the ups and downs of the startup world. In those early days at Brava, the big 6 month lamp delay was a dark day. I didn't know if we were going to have all the funds, if we were going to survive. The team stuck together, learning from John, our president and CEO, and seeing his commitment to the team, product, and brand was very impactful for me too. Some people left Brava for other opportunities. Some left because they didn't like startup insecurity. Because Brava was so new in doing something that had never been done before, I wanted to see it through to the end. At the end of the day, they believe in the product. That's why I love this job so much. And that's why I left some of those other jobs, was because it wasn't what I ultimately wanted to do. 10 years ago, I couldn't have told you I was going to want to work for an oven company. Um,
just connected the dots. It makes sense. You're in your place. This is really the right place for you, Travis.
yeah,
Close enough
I
to
love it.
each other.
I hope it keeps going for a long time.
Yeah, that's amazing. On a personal note, so I know you love music because we spoke about Metallica. You're a committed father with 4 kids, which takes a lot of time. How do you make time for music, being a father and a husband in the middle of all this startup chaos? Do you still have time for it?
Yeah, I do actually. It was tougher when I was in Silicon Valley every day because it was a long commute. COVID gave me a little commute time back. I still go to our Fremont office now, but it's a shorter commute. I get my music time when I work out. When I'm with my kids, I take them to jujitsu and assistant coach them. So I get a good amount of time with them and doing some work from home. Before COVID, I was never home for dinner. COVID changed that I was at home for dinner every night. That's something
Same.
that I don't ever want to give up again. So, yeah, it's a balancing act, but one that is worthwhile. And I have an amazing wife. She handles the majority of the kids' activities during the day.
Travis, I'm so grateful you took time out of your busy day to share your amazing journey with us. Thank you. This is
Yeah, this
great.
is great. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
My pleasure, Travis. You take care.
Awesome. You too.